Hi, this is Dr. Dave Crown from Dairy Sense. Today I'm going to talk about what oxidative stress and leaky gut are. So let's get moving. What is oxidative stress and leaky gut? A common belief of mine is you can't prevent it if you don't understand it. It's quite complicated, oxidative stress, so I'm going to try to explain it as simply as possible so you can understand it and prevent it in your cows and calves. A little background of how I got interested in oxidative stress. So I'll start in 2004 with Mike Allen from Michigan State. He did a paper, a research article, and it was called Hepatic Oxidative Theory, or the HOT theory. The name oxidation is actually in the name of the HOT theory. It is quite complicated, as you can see below, but I use it basically on a daily basis when I examine my herd's data. Then in 2017, October, I was reading an article in the Beef magazine, and it was written by Scott Crane, a veterinarian of beef and feedlot veterinarian, and it was titled "Oxidative Stress in Feedlot Animals." What he was talking about in there was what he was seeing in late-fed feeder cattle was very similar to what I was seeing in mid to late lactation dairy cows. Myself and Scott did a little research on two farms in Wisconsin, and I'll tell you about the results of that study in a future video. So, what is oxidative stress? Cells undergo aerobic metabolism to produce energy, but toxic byproducts called free radicals are also produced. When the level of free radicals produced overwhelm the body's natural ability to detoxify them, the result is oxidative stress. These free radicals then bind to proteins, DNA, and cell membranes, resulting in cellular damage, death, tissue destruction, and other organ malfunctions. A term we need to describe first is chronic oxidative stress, or COS. COS is a cumulative effect of uncontrolled oxidative stress over time. And in my first video, I talked about what was a result of these uncontrolled oxidative stress or cause in cows and calves. I'll just highlight a few of them that I talked about in my first video. Hypocalcemia. Majority of hypocalcemia is due to oxidative stress. Ketosis and fatty livers are also due to oxidative stress. Mid-lactation indigestion, something you see on a daily basis, are also due to oxidative stress. Poor milk persistency post-peak, one of the most costliest things on a farm if you have this, is also caused by oxidative stress. Heat stress is a major cause of oxidative stress. And then when we look at high cell counts and mastitis issues in herds, we need to be looking at the oxidative stress levels from the feed and preventing that. In calves, we talked briefly about calf with pneumonia and subclinical ulcer. I mentioned that 80% of pale-fed calves have subclinical ulcers, and that's all due to oxidative stress. And I briefly touched on salmonella, coccidiosis, and Clostridia outbreaks, and those are due to oxidative stress. So how do we form free radicals? Cells undergo oxidative cellular metabolism no matter where they are, if it's in the liver, the lungs, the heart, the ruminant intestines. And a certain percent of the oxygen is converted into oxygen radicals. Oxygen radicals can bind with another oxygen radical to produce peroxide. Peroxide is going to be important when we talk about mycoplasma pneumonia in calf. So we take hydrogen peroxide and we add another oxygen radical. We produce the hydroxide radical. And then hydroxide radical plus lipid radical produces the lipid peroxide radical, and this is the one that causes all the cell damage and death. Lipid peroxides also produces MDA, malondialdehyde. I mention this because when we did our research on dairy cattle, those two herds, we measured the MDA levels, which is a level of oxidative stress in a cow's blood. So when you take these reactive oxygen species, which is a combination of all the oxygen radicals together, and we normally can detoxify them in our system, and this is done by three enzymes: catalase, superoxide dismutase, glutathione peroxidase, and these three enzymes detoxify them into water and oxygen. I've highlighted what's in these enzymes, the minerals, and an amino acid. The reason I did that is Dr. Crane developed a product called Dualport, and that's what's in the product Dualport are these minerals and the amino acid glycine. So when we build up these oxidative stress and our system is overwhelmed, we get inflammation, and that inflammation will lead to wherever the inflammation is occurring in the body. Will in the gut, it's called leaky gut. It's one of the most important sites of oxidative stress in a ruminant. If it's in the heart, it produces myocarditis or inflammation of the heart. If it's in the joint, it'll cause joint inflammation. And as you can see on the left is a knee joint on a cow. It has a major erosion on the left and more of a minor erosion on the right. Dr. Crane looked at 3,500 knee joints in a slaughter plant in Kansas, and over 90% of the knee joints he looked at had these erosions. I myself actually went to a dead cow slaughter plant, and I looked at the first 14 cows off the line, which were animals from all over, from different farms in the area, and 100% of the knee joints that I saw had these erosions. And these are the pictures that I took from those cows that had the erosions. I think this will be a major animal welfare issue potentially down the road. And if it gets systemically, the oxidative stress, it can reduce the immune system, and that can cause metritis, retained placentas, and mastitis. And if the oxidative stress is in the lungs, it can cause interstitial pneumonia and Mycoplasma bovis pneumonia. Picture on the left is a calf with Mycoplasma pneumonia. It also has Mycoplasma middle ear infection, and so it has a head tilt. And on the right is a postmortem of a lungs of a calf with Mycoplasma pneumonia, with all the consolidated lungs in the lower third of the lungs. And I mentioned before the hydrogen peroxide that's produced from oxidative stress in the lungs. That hydrogen peroxide makes it a real good environment for Mycoplasma bovis to grow and multiply. And so that's why it's important to reduce oxidative stress in calves, and so we don't make them more prone to Mycoplasma pneumonia. Okay, so the gut is the most significant site that we see in cattle for oxidative stress. If the oxidative stress builds up in the gut, it can cause cell damage, and one of the most important things is there's normal tight junctions between the cells. The oxidative stress toxins can cause a disruption of tight junctions and cause this thing called leaky gut to occur. Let's look at the gut. When oxidative stress increases in the gut, the toxins will break down the intercellular adhesions in the cells of the gut and cause this thing called leaky gut. When we get leaky gut, we get bacterial leakage and toxin release, and the bacterial leakage will lead to laminitis, foot rot, and pneumonia, and the toxin release will cause these abomasal ulcers, hemorrhagic bowel syndrome, HBS, these mid-lactation indigestions I talked about in the first video, the cartilage damage that you just saw in the previous slides, and the immune suppression, which can cause metritis, retained placentas, and mastitis. I knew this Dr. Melissa Baer at the Wisconsin Veterinary Diagnostic Lab. In 2017, worked for the South Dakota State Diagnostic Lab. And I called her up after I had talked to Dr. Crane about oxidative stress, and I asked her, "What do you know about oxidative stress?" And she said to me, quote, "Oxidative stress is the backbone of all diseases and cancer in all mammals." That is quite the statement. So just a little while after that, I went to chiropractor, and they had a pamphlet sitting in there, and I opened it up, and I saw this picture, and as you can see, this inflammation in this is really oxidative stress and leaky gut. And if you see all the different diseases it causes, it's very similar to what we see in people as what we see in cows. So it affects all mammals, including humans. So in conclusion, cells undergo aerobic metabolism in the gut. A few of the oxygen produces oxygen radicals. We have a natural detoxification in our body to reduce these radicals to H2O or water and oxygen. If these oxygen radicals build up and overwhelm our system, we get oxidative stress. Oxidative stress in the gut will cause leaky gut, and leaky gut will produce all these common diseases and production issues that we see in cows and calves. In my next video, I'm going to talk about some of the factors on your farm that cause oxidative stress and leaky gut in your cattle. So stay tuned.